Hello and welcome to the GrapeSEED official podcast. We are starting a new series here in this episode called Take a Step. In it, we will take a very close look at the progression of learning our students will go through with a particular material in a unit. We will look at the quick checks in the teacher manual to get the big picture look at our goals, and then dive into the lesson plans and see how what we are doing in each day contributes to achieving those big picture goals. We will primarily focus in on the highlighted material for the episode, but if there are other questions or activities found in the lesson plans for other materials that contribute to the quick check goals of our focus material, we will mention those as well. For example, today's focus is the story Family and Friends in Unit 1. We'll be looking at the quick checks for it and primarily focusing on what the lesson plans tell us to do in each exposure. But if the directions in the lesson plans for another material, like 5 Little Elephants, contribute to us achieving our goals in Family and Friends, we will talk about it. The goal of this series is to help show our teachers how carefully GrapeSEED has been designed, through how interconnected everything in the curriculum is. Going on these journeys with us will also help frame your own thinking when you approach your prep and planning time, guiding you to being a more effective teacher. Let's get started. This episode, we will focus on Family and Friends. We're starting out simple here with this new series. This is Unit 1, so our students aren't expected to have any prior English foundation. Maybe some of them have picked up some English words or phrases in exposure to other forms of English in their lives, but we should safely assume that we are starting from scratch. What are we trying to accomplish with this story? The quick checks in the teacher manual show us the general route we will follow. In early exposures, it asks, are students beginning to identify characters in the story? So, questions like, who is this, with the expected answer of Artie. In the middle exposures, we want to see if students can answer some simple questions from the story, like, what does Pete do with his friends? Here, we can expect answers like play or run or jump. By the end exposures, we want to see if students can share about their friends using the language of the story. So the teacher can start with something like, this is my friend, her name is Catherine. Who is your friend? Essentially, the teacher is modeling an expected answer for the students, who then can say something like, this is my friend, his name is Bruce. The teacher can then ask a follow-up of what the student does with their friend, and the student can answer something like, we play and jump. In the big picture, that's a lot of growth, starting from zero English ability. What's our battle plan? We are first going to build comprehension so students understand who is who in the story. We aren't expecting full sentences, but we want to see if they can recognize that, for example, the picture of Pete's mother in the story is a mother, and understand what that means. We are then going to take it a step further, and now that students know who is who, we will build comprehension of what those characters actually do. Finally, we want our students to understand who the characters are and what they do, and be able to connect that language to express themselves. We want them to understand that Pete and his friends play and run, and hey, they play and run with their friends too. Not only do we want them to understand it conceptually, we want them to talk about it. Of course, we won't be drilling or forcing them to do so, but through maintaining a low affective filter and building comprehension in the classroom and through REP, we want to arm students with both the knowledge and the confidence to share that knowledge. So those are the big goals. How are we going to get there? Let's look at our lesson plans to see our roadmap. We teach Family and Friends in Lesson 1. We are instructed to simply tell the story, pointing to the pictures. With effective gesturing and pointing, our students will have passive exposure to who the characters are and what they do in the story. Also in Lesson 1, here we sing the hello song and the where song. In these, we are instructed to point at the different characters and identify them by name. This will help our students begin to identify Pete and Artie in Family and Friends as well as in all the other materials featuring those characters. Here in Lesson 1, we are already taking steps to make our students successful with the early exposure quick check of beginning to identify the characters in the story. This support work in hello and where continues in Lesson 2. But on this day of family and friends, not only are we reading the story, we are also opening to a specific card and modeling the sentences, "This is my brother," "These are my sisters." Now, they won't be responsible to understanding the difference just yet, and we certainly aren't going to expect them to speak in full sentences. But just like with a lot of modeling we do in GrapeSEED, we're laying the groundwork early and showing students where we want them to go. Through continued modeling like this, students will understand it more and more over time. We see something similar in a new development in Lesson 3. When we sing the Where song here, we start asking where actual students in the classroom are, as opposed to the characters on the teaching cards. This will help us achieve our end exposure quick check much later of students being able to use the language in family and friends to talk about themselves. Even in Lesson 3, we are starting to show students that we aren't just singing songs with pretty cards. This is language that can be used to communicate.
Goodbye, my friends, goodbye. I'm sad to say goodbye. It was a good day, but now I will say goodbye, my friends, goodbye.